What's up, comic and pop culture fans? This is James with Mint Hunter Comics, and today we're going to be talking about old versus new. CGC's been at it for over 20 years. There have been several iterations of the label. They started with a red label. I don't have one. There's one at the antique shop, but I'll pop up a picture for you here. Soon after that, they had this blue boxy label. I think this is the most unattractive of all of their slabs, so they've come a long way. This is the next one you're going to see most commonly. And this one, I think pretty much up until 2015, maybe 2016, they were doing this label. It was a lot more dull up here, but a significant improvement from the previous slab. And then we landed on the current slab, which has even had little micro switches and changes. For example, now there's a QR code on the back, which will show you the grader's notes. They're a little bit better with key identifications. They still have a far way to come when it comes to small and mid keys, but that's a conversation for another video. And so this is where we've pretty much landed with CGC, and it's the industry standard. People tend to like it. But what I wanted to talk about today is which is preferred. And I wanted to offer the insight of someone who's been submitting for many years now. A lot that gets talked about that should be discussed here today when comparing old versus new slabs. For starters, CGC's grading has gotten stricter over the years. This is something you'll often hear talked about in chat boards or in person, but if you find a 20-year-old slab, let's call it a 4.0, I've actually got one here, the first appearance of the Green Hornet. Typically, I have found that the oldest slabs, often like this one, if CGC were to grade it today without getting clean pressed or anything, it probably would score a point lower, maybe even 2 points lower. They've gotten stricter. They hold things to a higher standard. They've gotten crazy pedigrees that have come in that keep pushing the bar of what it's like to have a gorgeous bulletproof vintage piece like that. And I think it has set the bar higher. Most people tend to agree. The second thing about old slabs you need to understand is in the early 2000s, cleaning and pressing was not so much a common thing. People were doing it, but it had to have been a tiny, tiny percentage. It's not like it is now where most people know to clean and press their comic books. So a lot of books in these old labels, or even in the slightly older label, know that, hey, you know what? That book was probably sent in as is. That probably never saw press, never saw clean. In the example of this book, I actually do see on the grader's notes that this is going to be a candidate that I will personally send to get regraded. But why would I not want to always do that? A lot of times with these old slabs, because so many people weren't cleaning and pressing, there's this assumption that gets made that you can see a grade bump if you were to do a little work on it and get it bumped. But remember how I said that I think their standards have changed? Well, I'm here today to tell you from personal experience, typically, no matter what presser you go through, either you send it to CGC, you got your own guy, or you got another guy to even compare that guy with, in my personal experience, I've had a lot of really old Green Lantern slabs, and I've done a lot of work on them, and they end up coming to the same grade. I've actually only had very few grade bumps ever. And the reason is, in this example of the second appearance of the Black Hand, we have a Green Lantern 39. This was an old label, 9.4. Frankly, I was looking at it, I thought it looked like a 9.0. I did the clean and press, and now it's in a brand new label, 9.4. So it had to take being improved and cleaned and pressed to get to what I think is the new standard of 9.4. An ever so slightly higher adjusted standard from 20 years ago. I've had over 100 comics that have gotten the same treatment, and all but about 4 or 5 have stayed the same grade, essentially. I personally would much rather have a new slab because it is sleek, there's a lot of new redesigns, and I frankly like and trust the current grade better than an older slab. I feel like a 9.4 these days is a 9.4, whereas like a 20-year-old 9.4 oftentimes could be like a 9, hell, maybe even 8.5. So I've put a lot of work just to get the same grades in, but I like having it in the new slabs. It just makes more sense to me. Now I will show you, because it does exist. This is probably my best grade bump I've ever received, especially since it's a 1969 book. With Green Lantern 69, I definitely noticed that there were things that could be improved. So reading the grader's notes is going to be your friend here. Watch for the cues that it could be something that you really can improve. You can't do anything about color breaking spine ticks. You can do things with spine rolls, waviness, and other certain things. So this book got the clean, it got the press, and it actually ended up all the way at a 9.8. I was absolutely over the moon when I got this back. So it can happen. It absolutely can happen. I just find that for the most part, the books tend to stay the same. 9.4 old slab, got a perfect treatment, was definitely improved, stayed a 9.4. Now, there's a new phenomenon exclusive to this year and kind of also exclusive to Marvel slabs, I have to say. And that is some distrust in the community with modern slabs. If you don't know, I'll do a quick fill-in on something that happened this past year. Essentially, there were 1 or 2, maybe more, agents that figured out a way to take a slab. They were able to crack it open, get it out, and they actually were slipping different books in, maybe a green label book, maybe a restored book. They were slipping it back in, sending it back to CGC, that at the time, CGC's reholder policy was, oh, we got an old or damaged slab. The client's paying $20, we'll just reholder it. It's not a new regrade, we're just going to reholder it. Now, because this person who's involved in a very large lawsuit right now, or people, messed it up, there's that a reholder thing is different. Everything is a regrade now. So if you ever send something in to get reholdered with CGC, they have to hold it basically to the same standard as regrading it if you want to get it in a new slab. So obviously that created a wound in the grading community that has yet to fully heal, I think. I think a lot of people were really hurt. How could this happen? Even though CGC was the victim of this particular issue, they should have had quality control standards that caught it. And they know it, and they have done a public apology, and they are pursuing this person legally. If they were able to do it, it has to be more than just them that did it. So one way that new slabs has been hurt is that the reputation of a new slab has taken a hit this past year. I've had a couple comics where I've phrased it like, I've got this old label, and I'd really like to get it in a new slab. And a lot of people say, don't touch it. Older slabs are the way to go. That was before people were shirking the system and running that scam. So it's created this new kind of generation in thinking of like, we are actually trusting the old slabs more. I disagree wholeheartedly. With that. I definitely trust newer slabs big time, especially since, I'm a DC collector, and that scam wasn't really targeting DC books. It was definitely targeting mainly like ASM and other 80s keys. But I just can't ignore the fact that me personally, as someone who's seen a million comic books, I've got my own eye for grading now, and I agree with current CGC grading and current CBCS grading now a lot more than I did how things looked 20 years ago. So that's why I have to kind of choose the new stuff. The old stuff, I often feel that, yes, it's cool that it's never been cleaned and pressed, and there could be room for improvement, but that improvement might just be able to bring it back to what that grade already is. So that's kind of the politics going on right now. This is a very exclusively 2024 issue that we're talking about here. So I kind of understand the distrust going around lately. You can't really ignore it. If you look in the comments of pretty much any CGC video, there's always going to be a few people, bringing that up. And, it can't really be ignored. The best thing that you can do is strengthen quality control, which they have tenfold, to kind of ensure something like that never happens again. Again, an agent working within CGC, that's insane. That's insane. I'm actually surprised they shared that information so willingly. Me personally, when it comes to the slab game, I still say that CBCS, especially with their brand new label, is my favorite. You've heard me talk about reasons for that, but when it comes to CGC, I like getting the stuff graded under the new format. QR codes on the back, everything streamlined, things at currently a pretty nice price too. It's kind of the best way to go. I do prefer the new slab to the old slab, not just in appearance, but in trust of the grade. When it comes to specifically 80s Amazing Spider-Man keys and other things, it's true. I do have a little trepidation, like, ooh, I wonder if this is one of the 9.8s that was hit by that scammer. And I do look a little extra close to make sure. We're talking about less than 1% of probably 1% of the books that have gotten graded in the last few years, but it's worth mentioning, and because it's had such an impact on people's ideas, it has to be brought up today. I'd like to know in the comments down below, what do you want to see to instill that feeling of trust again? Do you need to have a new inner well that has the cert number on the inside? What's going to make you feel secure about the new generation of slabs? Maybe CGC will see this and they'll take it into account. They have apparently watched my videos before when I've been a little loudmouthed and complained, and they've actually reached out to me and said that they are working on changing that. So we have the power of the voices here, guys. We have the power to be heard, and you know what? They do actually listen. So if you've got constructive criticism, let's drop it down below. And as always, keep on hunting. Make sure to come on down to Sentiment Depot's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 238 West Delaware Ave in Pennington, New Jersey. Find so many great books for just $1 and the lowest prices on key comics around. Enjoy a huge selection of graded comics priced up to 20% lower than current fair market value. We are open from Wednesday to Sunday, closed Monday, Tuesday. You got a collection you want to sell? Bring that too. Can't wait to see you there.